Hey everybody, it's First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Brad Penwich. Thought I'd do a vlog today talking about potential winter weather that's circulating online. This is that time of year, and I feel like I do one of these vlogs every year talking about this stuff. And let me just put this out there I love snow, folks, and I love to look at winter weather. But when we get in the wintertime, people get really caught up in these long range, what we call deterministic model forecast. And I'm going to talk a lot about that today and tell you what I think is going to happen and why you should avoid certain things you see online and what you should look for if you do want to see snow. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But before we do that, let me talk about the current weather. Just so quick little update on the weather today. We've got this weak front coming in from the west, and it's spreading a lot of clouds into the region now. So these clouds are going to be with us all day. We will have a small chance of showers, and even in the mountains, I wouldn't be surprised to see a few sleet pellets mix in. But this is going to move through pretty quickly, and it's going to bring in some really cold air for the weekend. In fact, you can see this cold air building over the Midwest and Canada. And that's a big part of the pattern next week that we're talking about and why you're starting to hear all these rumors of potentially winter weather. Because one thing that we know, the large scale pattern is developing that some of this cold air is going to be coming to the south. But what a lot of people don't tell you, and they like to get you hyped up, is that that cold air is not very specific. It doesn't mean it's coming directly to Charlotte or coming directly to Birmingham or Mississippi or, anywhere. It's coming somewhere in this area. And that's the thing about these ridge trough patterns. They're very broad and big. They're not really specific. So when you start seeing specific stuff about these totals, this type of winter weather, 7, 10, 12, 15 days out, just discount it. It's complete garbage. And I'm going to show you why here in a minute. First things first, this is one of the things I always show during the wintertime. I posted this yesterday. And one of the reasons that these long range models are so bogus sometimes is the people will show you one outcome. So for instance, this is out of Kansas City. And this is Plinko. Everybody loves Plinko. But you see there's a big 12-inch amount there. On day 9, one solution could be going right there. One thing you don't know and that people don't show you because they're trying to get you excited is you don't know what the other options are down here. Like this says 12, but there's a 6 and an 8 and a 1. Sometimes there's a 12, and then there's like the rest of these are 0. So the probability of getting the 12 is like a 1 in 10 chance or a 1 in 20 chance or a 1 in 15 chance. So if people are going to what we call post the deterministic model, which is one single solution, I think they owe it to you to show their work, show you what the other solutions are. So you can honestly look at something and say, oh, that's not a likely scenario. We call those ensembles. And that's really kind of the way that I go about things. And I'm going to show you a little bit about ensemble forecasting here and how it works and things that I look for patterns and potential for winter weather. So let's talk a little bit about models, because a lot of folks, this is a model page that I subscribe to. I have a lot of free sites I could show you and a lot of paid sites I can show you. There is a ton of model data. It is all public if you want to pay for it all or if you want to get the free stuff. But it's mainly all public, and it doesn't mean everybody knows how to use it. I always tell people, it's just because you can go to Home Depot and buy the supplies to build a house doesn't mean you really know how to build a house. Just because you have the tools doesn't mean you have the ability to put it together. But what most people do, and I think is pretty funny, is look at all these parameters. So this is the European model. You can see all of the parameters that this model puts out. Every single map is a different thing that the model forecasts. I mean, you can scroll through here, and this is just this site shows all these different parameters. What do people do? They scroll through and click on just the snowfall, and they don't look at another piece of information. The one thing about these models, if I click on this snowfall map and I see snow, you need to go back and look at the thicknesses, the temperature, the pressure fields to see if that snowfall forecast actually makes sense. Oftentimes when people post the snowfall forecast and you hear me discount it, it's because I've looked at the other parameters that don't add up the snow. And that happens quite a bit in these guidance. So just be very cautious if people are picking and choosing one thing. So I say, show your work. One thing I'd like to look at is something called ensemble forecasting. Instead of deterministic, which is like a binary forecast, 0, 1, this shows you multiple outcomes. Basically, it runs the model, in this case, 51 times. Okay? In 51 times over the next 15 days, the European model, and I'll try to scoot this over, shows the chance of snow in Charlotte next weekend. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of these 51. 9 of these 51 show some snow. And if you look at the totals, they're all an inch or less. Some of these are like 1/10 of an inch. So So just look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 out of 51, okay? The rest of these are goose eggs or zeros, okay? So let's look at another ensemble. So let's look at the GFS ensemble. It doesn't have as many variations, but it has 21. It has, for next weekend, 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't count this one because it's actually 0, so it's probably a trace. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 out of 21. Okay, folks, add those up. That's 14 out of 82 runs. That's like in the 10% range, okay? It's really, really tiny, okay? So when you see this, and I look at these, I say, oh, if I see someone throw one of those crazy maps out, I go, ooh, these don't, the ensembles don't support it. Now, if I start seeing a bunch of these start trending, we get a whole bunch, and more of these start getting added with every run, that's a trend. That's something we start to watch to see if it can develop. Another great tool is the WPC puts this product out. It shows the probability out to 7 days for wintry weather up to 1/4 inch. This goes out through next Friday. So if I go through here, there's no chance of any wintry precip until next Friday. It shows a couple areas in the mountains and foothills, and this probably looks like cold air damming to me, of a 10 to 30% chance 7 days from now. But notice there's nothing in the Piedmont. Nothing. Okay, now this isn't perfect, but I like this because it doesn't show specific totals. It doesn't show snow, sleet, ice. It just shows the chance of wintry precipitation that equals 1/4 inch of liquid in the next 7 days. It's a great thing to look at to say, is there just a chance? Is it going up? And so trends are important too. One snapshot doesn't tell you a lot. If the snapshot shows one thing, the next day it looks more or less, it trends up or down. Those are things we look for. So my rules that I go by, and I showed this as well, is really what I would say everybody should do. Let me shorten this up a little bit. 7 to 10 days out, you can start looking for pattern recognition. Is there a chance of cold and storminess lining up in the southeast? Yes, no. Okay, maybe there is. Where I'm getting to the point where this is starting to go to maybe the pattern's going to become favorable sometime next weekend into the following week. Can't give a specific day because it's like a 3 or 4 day time frame. Then, if that continues to stay put, 5 to 7 days out, is that trend showing up still? Is it going up? Is it going down? If it's going down, then it's less likely. If it's going up, hey, we start talking about it more. 3 to 5 days out, now we start saying, oh, hey, we could have snow, we could have sleet, we could have ice, we could have a combo. It could be on this day or this day. So we start talking about timing and the type of precipitation. Notice at no point do we ever say amounts, because it's just, you don't know that. Specific amounts are just not doable. I'm not going to lie to you. The science does not allow you to forecast the amount of snow in your backyard 5, 7, 10 days out. It's really hard to do 1 to 3 days out. So trying to do it really far out is difficult. What we do is look for broader patterns. Is there a chance of snow somewhere in the southeast? Yes, no. Okay, yes. 1 to 3 days out, and typically 1 to 2 days out, we start talking about amounts, snowfall, sleet, ice amounts, and specific locations and timing. That's really the way the forecast process works. What I think is wrong, and if you see this, and I apologize for any of my colleagues, and trust me, I've seen actual legit meteorologists post complete garbage. They start showing this in this time frame. You can't show specific totals 7 to 10 days out. It's just not doable. People are lying to you. What happens is people know you love snow. They know you love winter weather. And so what they do is they use confirmation bias to make you want to click on things that reaffirm your love for weather. And what happens is if I love snow, I'm going to look at the one thing that shows snow and ignore the 99 things that show me it's not going to snow. It's called confirmation bias. And that happens a lot on Facebook. It happens a lot on social media. But in snowfall forecasting, it's prevalent everywhere. And I tell this story all the time that I love snow. It's one of my favorite things. I fell in love with weather because of snow. But I learned as I became a meteorologist that I like getting the forecast right more. So I took my bias out of it. As much as I love snow, I don't want to over forecast it because I like it. I want to forecast what's actually going to happen. So that's kind of what's happening right now. So let's get to that pattern and let's talk about next weekend. This is one of the things I look at is this long range pattern. Is there a trough? Is there a cold air coming down? Is there a storm track to the south? So these are things that I'm starting to look at. Excuse me, I'm kind of jumping between here. Is that pattern developing? So let's talk about that pattern. And let me show you what I look at is the upper air heights first. I start looking at 500 millibar heights. And so what you notice here is there's a pretty significant dip in the jet stream that develops in the middle of next week and starts to move to the southeast. At the same time, we've got a split flow out west, which means there's a jet stream coming like this, and there's a jet stream coming like this. Now, the reason this is really difficult to forecast the stormy part of this is easy to forecast. It's cold air is coming here. We know that. This part is a big question mark because there's little pieces of energy that are going to come like this and pieces of energy coming here. Timing out this location and this location as they come together down here, those are really a lot of moving parts for the storm. And that's why you're seeing all these wild swings that people are posting, like one day, epic ice storm, next day, sunny and mild. Next day, snowstorm, next day, sunny and rain, rain and 50. The reason that is because this split flow is hard to forecast. The guidance is going to struggle with that. So that's why the one thing I can tell you is next weekend, we've got cold air in place and we've got the potential for storminess here. But right now, nothing in the guidance, even the crazy guidance you saw, didn't really make sense because these things aren't exactly lining up for a winter storm yet. But the pattern is becoming favorable. And I wouldn't say it's so much next weekend, it's the start of the pattern. Next weekend into the following week, to me, is when we start to see this. And oftentimes you see this with cold air. The first batch of cold air isn't the one that brings you snow. It's the follow-up storm behind it. And that's really going to be in the time frame of past next weekend. So if you're getting excited for winter weather, and I sure I am, and I love it, it's really starting to look in that time frame next weekend and beyond that the pattern changes. We can't really tell you specific totals at this point. I can't tell you there's going to be snow or ice right now. I just look at the pattern recognition, and we're getting to that time where maybe by the end of this weekend, I'll do another vlog and talk about the pattern shaping up, and we'll get to this point on my chart. I'll go back to it real quickly. We'll get to this point here in the next couple of days. We're really close to this. I would say this is starting to look as a check here. Not quite there yet because in the next 7 days, I don't see any winter weather. But in that 8, 9, 10 range, yeah, maybe something, the pattern is becoming favorable. So this is becoming more favorable. So I thought I'd just clear the air with that today. I know a lot of folks want to hear my method, and I like to pull the curtain back. That's the thing about sources of weather. There's a lot of people that post weather information. Just make sure they're honest with you. Make sure there's a face, a name. They don't have to be credentialed. There's some great forecasters who have learned on their own. I know a ton of them. But make sure they're transparent. Make sure they're showing you everything behind the screen and not just giving you stuff to click on a link and make money. My station makes money, but I also like to be honest. I want to keep you as a follower for the long haul, not just for this one storm. So I'm not going to tell you something that's not going to happen. I'm not going to do the sales tactic of trying to get you in the door and sell you everything. I'd rather you come back again and again and again. So there it is. Kind of a long-winded vlog today, but lay it out there. I probably could repost this every single winter for the next 5 years.